Needs an engine.
Yep, and you just grab
Got
whatever
the
you want
old
on
engine
here.
out.
Which one's
I
that?
have to put a new one in.
It's 2434.
Okay, yep. They're all up on here, 33, 34.
64.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's why I keep doing it on here. I keep figuring, what's the point? And you can take to whatever you want. I'll just keep it right here. You can
Now,
do whatever you
what
want.
kind of car is this? Another truck? Oh, you have a Crown Victoria that you,
Got all these papers. It's like, what the heck?
okay.
Chevy truck motor on that frame, then putting the 70 truck
On that,
and it's been just a big project.
making sure everything fits. Is there old Mustang, is there stuff from Mustangs that will fit on that frame for suspension?
One question for you.
To get the modern, more modern suspension?
But the suspension I have.
They do not need a variance, correct?
I didn't think so.
Because it's a year, there's less than a year.
Right.
Now, if it had been more than a year, they would have, correct?
Oh, within the last minute.
Yeah.
I'm working on a 1983 Audi.
When you and I talked, I was reversing this and this one.
This is a very unusual Audi.
Yeah, I know.
It's the original Quattro. The Germans call it an Quattro. It's they only brought 600 into the US.
But
And when they brought it here,
correct, if this
it was a $30,000 car.
This is no
Yeah,
longer
because
subsidized.
It was an Audi coupe.
So we're good with that, right?
And the problem was people looked at it and said, "It's just an Audi coupe." So you couldn't drive up to a fancy club and say, "Wow, you have a neat car." You know, people just say, "Yeah, an Audi." But it cost the same as a Porsche Turbo that year. Because it was a turbocharged car, international rally champion, 5
Did you
years.
swear me back in or anything since I've been going so long? Or I didn't even know who you were.
Until
Didn't they put my
everybody
picture up
made
there?
shorter cars for the and made for the
requested
tighter
it, what
rally
the heck?
courses. So Audi shortened theirs by 1.5 feet by taking the back seat out and just pulled everything
But
out.
you need that door lock shut.
Hey, we got a crowd. I turned around, the place filled up. That's quite possible. My phone is now shut off. It will not make a noise. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
do that on this too. So it doesn't beep every time I get an email.
Now they're saying 8 quarts.
This one just doesn't want to work.
Still having trouble with your seat. So you were working with the push button on the side, right? It didn't want to work.
Here's for this.
Not up and down. Yeah, I'm ready. Where you are.
No, 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 no. Well, yeah, they did.
Okay, at this time, I'll call the August meeting of the East Hempfield Township Zoning Hearing Board to order. Members present this evening, Mr. Hanson, Mr. Luce, Mr. Bingham, and myself, Phelan Herb, Chairman. Also, we have with us this evening our solicitor, Jason Hess, our zoning officer, Nathan Sturgis, and we have with us a court reporter who will be taking minutes. We have 3 new cases scheduled for this evening and any other old business that we have. This board will hear each case in an informal manner without strict compliance with the rules of procedure used in a court trial. We'll ask each applicant and any individuals interested in the particular case step in front of the table and explain the circumstances involved in their application. Applicants may present their cases themselves or through their attorneys or other representatives. My fellow board members and I, as well as the solicitor, may ask the applicant questions from time to time during the applicant's presentation or at its conclusion. All persons having an interest in an application will be given the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, to offer evidence of their own, and inform the board of their position on the matter. In the interest of a prompt and orderly disposition of each case, we will ask people to refrain from speaking until the applicant's presentation has been completed and the board has had the opportunity to question the applicant. At the beginning of each case, people who are interested in the case should decide whether they desire to be parties to it. By being given the status of a party, that person, will be entitled to receive notice of the decision in that case and will be entitled to participate in any subsequent appeal or rehearing. Individuals who are not given party status may nevertheless ask questions, present evidence, but will not receive notice of the decision and will not automatically be entitled to participate in any appeal or subsequent rehearing. If you desire to be a party, we ask that you sign an entry of appearance form at the appropriate time. And although each party will receive a written copy of the decision, the mechanics of typing and signing the decision takes approximately 4 weeks. We ask that each person who asks a question or makes a statement first state his or her name and address for the court reporter. Now, lastly, in the interest of time, I will administer the oath of affirmation to all applicants and to everyone and anyone who anticipates making any statement with respect to any of the hearings this evening. So at this time, would you all rise, please? Under penalties of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So please say, I do. Thank you. Please stay standing. We'll salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Nate, the cases this evening have been advertised and posted in accordance with the Sunshine Law and the municipalities planning code.
Yes, they have.
For everybody's information, not only is this meeting being conducted in person, it is also on Zoom. So there may be people on Zoom that have questions for applicant or anybody who makes a statement at the time, appropriate time. Gentlemen, you have received a copy of the July 19th, 2021 board minutes. There are no additions, deletions, or corrections. Could I have a motion to approve the board minutes as submitted by the secretary?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hanson, second by Mr. Bingham to accept the July 19th, 2021 board minutes. Any discussion, gentlemen? Seeing that, Mr. Hanson,
In favor.
Mr. Luce,
Abstain due to absence.
Mr. Bingham,
In favor?
and I'll also vote in favor. The July 19th, 2021 board minutes have been approved by 3-0-1 vote. With that, Nate, any old business?
No.
Okay, then could we have the first case, please?
Case number 2433, Red Wing Ventures LLC, 44 West Brant Boulevard, seeking a special exception for a substitution of a non-conforming use.
Okay. Do we have somebody from Red Wing Ventures or their representative here?
Yes, John Madiak, on behalf of the applicant.
Before you go there, Mr. Madiak, is there anyone in the audience that wants to be a party to this case? Anyone on Zoom? John, do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay. Seeing none, then Mr. Maniac, please, you can either go there or that one. Just speak into the microphone. I will ask that everyone who participates this evening, whether it's somebody who wants to be a party, the applicant, or just citizen has comments, please use the microphones for a couple reasons. One, makes it clear for the court reporter, pick up the information. Two, it also helps for the board minutes, which are different than the court reporter's minutes. And three, it helps to make sure everybody in the audience can hear. So for that, Mr. Madiak, please state your name, address for the court, for the record.
Thank you. My name is John Madiak. I'm with the firm of Brubaker, Connaughton, Goss, and Lucarelli. We're located at 480 New Holland Avenue, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm here tonight on behalf of Red Wing Ventures and Jeffrey, Martha, and Matthew Groff, who are proposing to establish a substituted non-conforming use at 44 West Branch Street in Salunga. That property is zoned village residential. It is just approximately 2.29 acres. It's historically been used as a trolley stop. We did some research, and I think sometime in the 1940s, it was transferred out of either PP&L's hands or the railroad's hands at that point. And the use as a trolley stop stopped at that point. About 13 years later in 1952, the Eastern Mennonite Mission acquired it and started using it as part of their operations and has been using it ever since at that point. The general explanation of the application is, as Mr. Sturgis indicated, is a substitution of a non-conforming use. We'll provide some detail about Eastern Mennonites, and if we slip and call it EMM, please forgive us, but Eastern Mennonites' use of the property for a small coffee roasting, packaging, and cafe. Kind of an alternative. As an alternative, we've requested a use variance as well. Just to address one of the legal aspects of the substitution, both, as you'll hear, both the use by Eastern Mennonite right now and the proposed use are both permitted in the village center district. I think I incorrectly called it village commercial in the application, but it's the village center district. If there's any other questions for me, I can answer them. Otherwise, we can start with Mrs. Groff to talk a little bit about the background.
Mr. Hanson.
Mr. Maddox, when did EMM stop using the property?
My understanding is that's in November of last year.
Last year? Okay.
Yes.
And
that they began marketing it at that time as well.
do you suspect that ownership will be taken before November of this year?
Assuming things go well, yes.
The reason I'm asking is because if it goes that full year, it's now considered abandoned, and therefore the special exception.
The ordinance provides for a year, but I think there is case law that suggests if it's being marketed for that same or similar uses, that year period is extended until the property transfers. And they did begin marketing it nearly immediately.
Just to follow up on that, is there an agreement of?
Yes. I think that was, I provided a copy to Nate. I understood it was going to be in your package. I can have Mrs. Groff identify it.
That's fine. I just wanted to put it on the record
Oh, yes.
that there is. So with the time period that Mr. Hanson is talking about and the court cases, there is an active.
There is an active agreement of sale with a zoning contingency. And a copy has been provided to the township.
Appreciate that. Any other questions, Mr. Madiak? Seeing none, please continue.
Mrs. Groff? Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Martha Groff, and I live at 936 Spoon Avenue in Landisville.
Are you one of the owners of?
Excuse me, just be a little closer to the mic.
It's okay, because then I can face you. It's fine.
It just so it picks up because your voice seems to be a little
All right,
soft.
I'll try to pick up.
Are you one of the owners of Red Wing Ventures?
Yes,
Okay, and has Red Wing entered an agreement to purchase the property
yes,
at 44 West Branch?
yes,
Okay, has a copy of that been provided to the township already?
yes,
And the agreement authorizes you to file the zoning application?
yes.
Okay. If Red Wing acquires the property, what is its intent to do with it?
We plan to lease it to Fat Cow Coffee Roasters.
Okay,
Fat Cow Coffee Roasters.
okay. Can you explain what Fat Cow is?
Yes, we are a small family business and veteran-owned. We were established in 2015. We currently sell our product through both retail and wholesale avenues. And our mission is to roast and provide outstanding specialty coffee at an affordable price point, and also to facilitate community through coffee. Near the beginning of our venture, Matthew had made this statement. Matthew, Jeff, and I are actually the sole.
Matthew, your son?
Yes,
Jeff, your husband.
Matthew, our son, Jeff, my husband, and I are founded it and co-own it, and we are the only 3 employees of Fat Cow Coffee Roasters. And near the beginning of this venture, Matthew had made the statement at one point that some of the best conversations he's ever had have been over a cup of coffee. And in keeping with that idea, we do strive to produce a coffee that will inspire people to savor and linger, not only over the cup itself, but with one another.
Okay. Now, so you currently roast now?
Yes, we do.
Where do you roast?
We rent a space at a farm in Silver Spring right now. And that's where we roast our coffee. We do all our bagging there. We do some of our fulfillment there and some of the fulfillment also from our home in Landisville.
Okay. Now Jeff will talk about the volumes and things like that, but
Yes.
what is your vision for Fat Cow and Red Wing at this property?
Well, we would love to be able to consolidate our business using the trolley station property. And in doing so, put not only the roasting, all the bagging, all our fulfillment under one roof. And additionally, add a small cafe so that we can sell not only our bagged coffee, but also brewed coffee and potentially limited foods such as baked goods. Frequently we get the question, oh, do you have a storefront or a cafe where we can buy your coffee? And it would be great to be able to offer that.
But you're not proposing to bake on site?
No, no,
The only it's
No.
roasting and processing of coffee.
roasting and processing coffee.
So you'd be
and-
selling.
And you know, having a,
If you added a food component, it would be third party.
it would be something prepared elsewhere and offered there. And that's a potential, but not a guarantee. But mostly we just want to be able to offer people the, you know, the ability to taste our coffee, buy a cup, buy a bag.
I have nothing further for Mrs. Groff. Mr. Groff will talk more about the operation of the actual roasting and what's being proposed.
Questions, gentlemen? Nate,
I don't have any.
Jason? No. Anyone in the audience have questions for the witness? Seeing none at this time, thank you.
Right.
I'm going to ask you cyberspace.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Nobody, I'm told there's nobody on Zoom that has any questions, so
Okay.
please continue.
Okay, I'd like to, Mr. Groff, please. Okay, could you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jeff Groff. I live at 936 Spoon Avenue in Landisville.
and confirming you are one of the owners of Red Wing and one of the owners of Fat Cow Coffee
I
Roasters.
am.
Okay. Now, as part of the agreement process, did you inquire as to Eastern Mennonites' use of the property?
I did.
Can you describe what you've been informed as has been their use?
Sure. I was told they primarily used it as a mailroom facility and office space for Eastern Mennonites bulk mailing. When I toured the facility, there were banding machines and an industrial cutter. And so kind of large scale fulfillment and mailing of brochures and things like that.
Okay, I'm going to show you a hand you. Email from Galen Hershey to Corinne Kirkner at PPM Properties. Is this the email that was generated in the response to your questions?
Yes.
Okay, I'll mark this.
Mark it as an exhibit,
Exhibit
please. Sure, old Mark.
applicants one.
Yeah, but sure, old Mark.
Okay. I have copies.
Did you make sure Jason got one?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where-
And in that email, they described the deliveries they received there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the number of employees and the use of the property itself on a daily basis.
Yes,
Okay. Have you reviewed this?
I have.
Okay, in your estimation, will your use fit within what I'll call that footprint of their use?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go into that in more detail. But can you explain the proposed use in some detail?
Sure. Yeah. So in general, we want to roast coffee there. After we roast it, it's in bulk. We would then bag that coffee.
Just for the board, how much are you roasting at one time?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So when we roast coffee, I roast a 12-pound batch, on, we have a small scale roaster. It's a cafe sized roaster. A 12-pound batch takes about 18 minutes to roast and generates 10 pounds of post-roasted coffee. You lose about 15% of the weight when we roast. A roast takes about 18 minutes. And I roast about, on the average, I roast 9 batches a week, about 100 pounds. And often I'll split that between 2 sessions, if you will. And so I'll roast 90 minutes to 2 hours one day or night, 90 minutes another day. And so over the course of a week, I'll roast 4 hours and about 100 pounds.
Okay, and now I've
I'm sorry,
distributed.
excuse me. Did
what
you say
will-
100 pounds?
Yes,
Okay.
I distributed what we'll mark as applicants two. Is that a picture of the roaster?
that is our roaster.
Okay. So roughly what size is that?
That is 3 feet wide. So the cooling tray that you see in the front is 3 feet in diameter. About 6 feet high to the top of the funnel at top, and then about 4 feet deep.
Okay.
Roughly the size of a stacked washer dryer that you would have in an apartment or a house.
Okay, after the coffee has been roasted, can you take us through the process?
Sure. So the coffee, after it's roasted, we drop that into just storage bins, either 5 or 10-pound storage bins. It sits for a few days. Roasted coffee off gases CO2 for a few days, and so you can't bag it right away, otherwise the bags will puff out. Then we bag them in 12-ounce retail bags. Store that for our sales, and so we sell, like Martha said, both retail and wholesale channels. So we intend to roast, bag, and then what Martha referred to as fulfillment, which is basically just fulfilling orders, whether they're wholesale or retail. Wholesale orders generally come in on Monday. We fill those on Monday. Martha hand delivers them to the grocery stores that stock our coffee. So that happens primarily only on Mondays, every Monday. We get retail orders in generally via the internet, probably 5 out of 7 days a week, and we just fill those as they come. So that fulfillment, basically is taking bags, putting them in mailing boxes, labeling them, and then taking them to the post office or posting them for the post office to pick up. So that's shipping. So roasting, packaging, shipping, and then lastly, like Martha said, we'd love to put a small cafe front on the facility, really just to serve brewed coffee, have a place where someone can buy our bagged coffee, and then, to Martha's point, potentially if there's a demand for, some food, just locally done pastries, that kind of thing. No grill, no cooking, nothing like that.
Okay, approximately how large do you anticipate the cafe will be?
Cafe is about 270 square feet.
Okay. And as part of the application, there was an exhibit that showed kind of a layout.
Yes.
Is that accurate? Is that still accurate how you wish to lay it out?
Yes.
Okay. And how many tables do you expect to have?
Three to four tables, whatever fits within code.
And 2 seats a table or?
2-3 seats a table, yes.
And then the roasting area, how big will that be?
Roasting area is 576 square feet, plus or minus.
Okay. And then how often do you receive shipments of the green beans?
Sure, yeah, I average a shipment of green beans about once a quarter. Green beans come in 150-pound burlap sacks, and usually there are 8 to 10 of those on a pallet. I usually get one pallet about every quarter. They come via freight, so I usually get them delivered on a shorty tractor trailer.
And do you expect that to increase, decrease the shipments?
I hope it doesn't decrease.
Okay.
Once a quarter is probably accurate because I'll just get, if the volume increases, generally I would probably get 2 pallets in a delivery, not 1, but I can't see getting a delivery more than once a month. If we got a delivery of a pallet once a month, then things are going pretty well for us.
And I think you may have said this already, but how often do you roast beans currently?
Right now I roast generally once or twice a week, about a total of 4 hours.
Okay. Can you explain, does the roasting process give off any odors or smoke or?
It does. So in that roasting process, like I described it, it's about 18 minutes long. And so you start with green beans. If you've ever seen a green coffee bean, it doesn't look anything like finished coffee. It's a dense green. It almost looks like a cherry seed. It's green, it's hard. As it roasts throughout the development, it loses moisture and it starts to turn that brown color. About the last 4 minutes of the roast is when it kind of turns that dark brown and undergoes a physical change and cracks. And during that last 4 minutes or so of a roast is when it smokes because it's turning brown. And so that's where you'll get smoke as well as the smoky smell that accompanies it.
Is it a heavy smoke or can you give an equivalent?
No, it's probably less than what you would get from a wood stove or a fire that you're burning in your fireplace. The only difference is it's pushed out by an impeller fan. It's not just sucked up through the flue.
And your intent at this location is to vent it through the roof?
Yes.
Okay. What is the maximum number of employees you'll have on site at any one time?
2 to 3, just the 3 of us.
Okay. And are you planning any changes to the existing building for this use, for the footprint of the building?
But none to the footprint now.
Obviously, you'll be refurbishing the inside. correct?
Yes.
I assume you'll respect some of the historic character of it.
We absolutely are committed to restoring the character of it. I grew up 300 yards from this building. And I've always loved it. I mean, it's just a unique, fantastic building. And I love the Salonga sign that hangs from it. It's been there since I was a kid. So absolutely, we will completely respect that.
Okay. Did you change the footprint of the parking? Any changes there?
No.
How many parking spaces are on the property?
There are currently 12 parking spaces on the property.
And there is a small loading dock?
There is a loading dock out front, yes.
What would your initial hours of operation be?
Somewhere, so we don't work 40 hours a week. So anywhere between 7 and 5, generally in the mornings, I would say. And for the cafe, the size that we're intending to use it for would be during that same period of time, probably until 10 or 11 o'clock. I mean, there's not a lot of demand for coffee at, in the afternoon. So, so the cafe piece would be in the morning, and then the work that we would be doing on the roasting and fulfilling would be during that same period of time.
In your opinion, again, I think we've already covered this, but now that we have the background of what you're going to do, in your opinion, oh, sorry, I think I forgot. Do you intend to put even though the smoke is relatively minimal, you intend to mitigate that smoke?
Yes, we will install a smoke mitigation device.
Okay. In your opinion, will your operation have a negative impact on the neighborhood?
No,
Any impact greater than Eastern Mennonite's current use?
no,
We talked about the smoke, additional traffic beyond what Eastern Mennonite generated?
I don't think so. They had a fair amount of traffic, with deliveries and mail.
And no
We'll
more truck traffic.
No.
I have nothing further at this point.
Gentlemen, questions? Mr. Hanson?
You said in your testimony you have 12 spots, and after looking at the property, you can see there are 12 line spots there. One of the things I would be asking is, would you agree to the condition that all spots will meet the township requirements for size and length? And the reason I ask that is because I think the two on the access drive there where you see that red car parked, I don't believe they currently meet township.
Okay.
That may decrease the spots.
I think you only need 10 is what I saw in your submission. You only need 10, I believe. So the other question I have is, are you going for trash removal? Are you going to have a dumpster? Or are you going to use cans, or what are you going to do?
I use cans now. We don't have enough trash to require a dumpster. And so that's basically what I do now.
Okay, and that's the reason I was pointing out those spots, because if you were ever going to use a dumpster, if anybody was parked there, you'd never get a truck back there.
Sure.
The loading dock, will your delivery trailer be able to fit into that loading dock without blocking the street?
If it's a shorty, I believe it will. So I need to so sometimes I'll get it on a shorty, sometimes I get it on a regular one, which isn't a problem where I am now. So I'm pretty sure a shorty will be accommodated there. And, again, it's one pallet, so it's in and out pretty quickly.
I'm assuming you're going to have a sign,
Yes.
and it's going to meet the requirements of the township zoning ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to have to do anything for ADA requirements with your little cafe?
Cafe, I'm assuming that we will, which means there's an existing ramp that doesn't meet ADA requirements. So we'll definitely have to put a ramp in, and I haven't done a ton of research on exactly what we're going to have to do, but we would have to
I
do
also
that.
think the layout on the attached shows a bathroom with a 5-foot turning circle, and which I think is.
Well, the reason I'm asking is if you have to add some type of ramp there, depending on how it's designed, you may end up using more lot coverage than what's permitted in the zone. That's why I was asking.
More what coverage?
Lot coverage.
Lot
Oh, okay.
coverage.
If you go back to that, so the existing ramp that is there today is on this, would be on the left-hand side. I'm sorry, on the right-hand side.
It's in the area of the loading dock, correct?
Yeah, it's behind the loading dock.
Mr. Ruff, behind you.
Oh, sure. So where do I press for the pointer? So. This is Grant right here. Existing. Porch that goes here. This is the loading dock as it exists today. The porch actually ends right here, and there is a ramp right now down to about here. Parking spaces are here, so you know the initial thought was we just expand or recreate this ramp, and then this would be our handicap or designated handicap parking spot right here, which is right next to the ramp.
All right, thank you.
And would that be under cover of the roof, the ramp?
It is. It is.
So it's not changing much. It
Wouldn't
won't
change.
change the footprint.
Not at all.
Other questions, gentlemen? Mr. Bingham?
You talked about a device to mitigate smoke. Does that also reduce the aroma, any of the chemicals that create the aroma?
It does, because generally what you're smelling is the fine particulate matter that's
Right.
in the smoke, right? And so there are three ways that roasters do this when they do it. One is an afterburner, which essentially hyper
Hotter.
incinerates the smoke. One is an electrostatic filter. And then there's a third, which is it combines an external cyclone, like a cyclone, like a dust cyclone that a lot of places use. And so it runs the smoke and any other particulate matter that's coming out of the exhaust through the cyclone and injects a fine spray of water into it. And so the water essentially filters out the particulate matter that's in the smoke, drops it down, and then the water becomes the filter. And then it cools the exhaust. And so most of what comes through the stack, even there's still some is steam. I haven't decided which way to go. There's pros and cons on all three. I like the last because it's the most energy efficient. And really all you're venting out is steam, and you know, it just has a much lower carbon footprint for everybody involved.
Do you use one of those at your current location?
I do not. There's really not a reason to, because I'm on a farm, and
Yeah,
so I just kind of vent it out. Yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen? Mr. Ruff, a couple things. One is if and when this board would approve this and you move the roaster in, the mitigation of the smoke would be installed immediately.
Yes, sir.
So with this mitigation of the smoke, what would you say the odor is then coming from one of those three that you described? What would you say the odor would be, like on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm going to guess.
That's perfectly
That's the best I can do.
right.
I would say with the last option, which is the one I'm leaning towards, it probably mitigates it down to a 3 because it's really taken almost everything out, and the only thing that's coming out is steam.
Okay.
The only thing you would see.
It's the only thing you would see, and you know, again, the odor that you're picking up is generally the particulate matter that's in the exhaust.
Right. But if I would live across Stony Battery, in which there are some homes over there, what would I smell? Again, I know it's a guess, it's your opinion, but
You might smell some roasting coffee.
Okay,
It's not strong, it's not noxious.
more than what I smell when my wife starts cooking her coffee in the morning.
Different than what you're smelling when your wife starts cooking coffee. No, I don't think you would smell that much because it's going to dissipate between there and
Okay.
and Stony Battery Road. And plus I'm venting it up through the roof, so I'm venting it into a pretty large area.
Sure. Now, you said that you would be roasting 1 to 2 times a week, approximately 4 hours in a 7-day period. What were those hours that you would be roasting sometime in the morning?
Generally, I roast in the morning or I roast in the evening. Now, I probably would not roast in the evening once we move over here, so I would roast sometime probably mid-morning.
So it'd be morning, okay. Your total hours, both for the roasting and for the cafe, what were they?
So what we put in the application was 7 to 5.
Right.
I can't see us going generally beyond 7 to 12. The hours that we put in to the operation right now are basically about 18 man hours, 20 man hours a week. So, you know, about 4 hours of roasting, the fulfillment. You know, so the long pole in the tent there would be the cafe and what the demand is for the cafe if we've got a lot of people that want coffee.
Okay. And you also said that the 3 owners are also going to be your 3 employees.
Yes,
They're one and the same.
yes.
Do you see that expanding?
Potentially to just man the
Cafe.
cafe,
Okay.
sure. But I don't think I envision more than 3 there at a time. And if there are, it might be 4.
Okay. And you said in your testimony that the shipments of the beans come on pallets and you get right now about 1 per quarter.
Mhm.
But you also said during your testimony about 1 per month.
Yeah, so if our volume goes up, my deliveries will go up. And generally, I think I would continue to get 1 every 3 months, or yeah, I would just double up the shipment. So I would get 2 pallets on a delivery, not 1.
So you would still get, the deliveries would be basically quarterly. So what I'm looking at is the truck traffic.
Yes.
Okay. But you just get more. How would that affect also then your roasting?
My roasting time would go up. So if we doubled, I would roast 8 hours a week.
Okay. Okay.
Ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, Mr. Hanson.
Along with your hours, I thought you heard you mention you would only be working Monday to Saturday, correct?
Yes.
Wouldn't have any Sunday hours at all.
No.
Thank you.
I have one other.
Mr. Bingham?
How do you dispose of your pallets? Is this a regular
Yes.
size pallet? Do you have someone that takes them away or?
Where I am now, I put them on the pallet bin that ends up getting burned, but that's a great question that I hadn't really thought of. So, yeah, I get 1 or 2 pallets. I would probably look into how I can recycle those, who will take them. I hadn't considered that.
Something to think about.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions, gentlemen? Nate? Jason of the witness?
I believe everything's been answered that I was.
Anyone in the audience have a question for the witness? Seeing that anyone on Zoom? Okay, thank you, Mr. Groff, for now.
We're requesting the relief. We think we meet the standard set forth in the ordinance and we'd ask the board to approve.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom have any comments for this application, either pro or con? Seeing none, with that, what, did I see, oh, did I miss somebody? No, ma'am.
You have to come up here.
I apologize. I did not see your hand. That's all right.
Mhm.
Okay,
Just-
I need your name and address.
My name is Cheryl Miller, and I live at 144 Stony Battery Road, which is right across the street from the trolley stop. I just wanted to comment, we've lived there for 35 years and we would welcome the coffee smell. I don't think we'd have any problem with that at all. We even kidded that it would make a nice coffee stop. We even named it Trolley Stop Coffee Shop. So when we heard the idea tonight, we'd be very excited about that and have no complaints. We've seen delivery trucks with EMM for 35 years. There's never been a problem with delivery trucks or, extra. It's a busy road anyway. We're at the triangle right there. So we know pretty much, so we would not have any problem with that at all, if that helps your decision.
Okay. Any questions, gentlemen?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
How often did you see delivery trucks, sir?
Oh, quite often. I'm a homemaker and I'm home most of the days. I know, they would back in and deliver like paper and different things, but I couldn't say how many days a week
Okay.
they came.
Quite often, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen? Nate? None. Anyone in the audience? Thank you. Sir, I have to swear you in before you can speak since you came in late. And I don't want you not to miss out what everybody else enjoyed.
Don't bother moving this, I'll just squat.
You can raise that.
You can actually lift it out.
Yeah,
You can just take
Or
the mic
lift
out.
it, geez. Yeah, we set that for average sized people. Under
not
penalties of
average.
perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. State your name, address first, and then your comment.
Adam Pettis, 25 West Brant Boulevard, about 3 or 4 doors down from the proposed location. I just wanted to add that I also would definitely welcome a coffee shop, a roaster. I've lived in Landisville, Salonga area my entire life, minus 2 years. Very excited to hear the proposals being discussed for the location, especially now that we live so close. I also know that there are some in this congregation here that would agree that my wife's cookies are the best that have ever been sold. I'd love to continue talking to you guys about of course, pending approval. So let the record state my wife's cookies are the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, gentlemen? Seeing none. Nate? Jason?
One question.
Mr.
How good
Pettis?
How good are they? The best.
We are currently fundraising for an adoption. For those of you that don't know, that's essentially trying to make $50,000 a year in the span of less than a year. Our primary fundraising efforts have been through my wife's cookie sales, and we have an incessant number of calls coming in for dozens of these cookies. The word has spread far and wide across Lancaster, and it's only getting worse. So shameless plug there. Thank you.
Yes, good luck. Anybody in the audience, Zoom, have questions? Yeah, if you want to buy cookies, contact Mr. Pettis. Seeing none. Yeah, we will have to. Right. Okay. At this time then, we will conclude testimony in case number 2433. We will take no administrative notice on this property. Previous cases, we will enter into the record applicants exhibits 1 and 2, plus the written and oral testimony. At this time, before we proceed to potential decision, Mr. Medichek, you have a request under 270-3.7B for a use variance. And so at this point, if we decide on its substitution of a non-conforming use, you are withdrawing that request from this board. Okay, just want to make sure that's in the record so we can proceed. With that, gentlemen, I will listen to a motion in case number 2433, if there is one at this time.
Mr. Chairman, case number 2433, request by Red Wing Ventures LLC for property located at 44 Brant Boulevard, Landisville, Salonga, PA. Grant a motion to grant their special exception to section 270-6.7 with the following conditions. Number one, all parking spaces have to meet township required parking spaces. And if for some reason they were to lose 2 of them, they would still have the required 10, so they'd still be good there. Number 2, hours will be restricted as testified 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And number 3 are standard conditions.
Okay, motion by Mr. Hanson in case number 2433 to grant special exception, or yes, grant a special exception for the property at 44 Brant Boulevard, Salonga, Pennsylvania.
West Brant Street.
Excuse me, 44 West Brant Street, Salonga. At the request of Red Wing Ventures for a special exception to 270-6.7 substitution of a non-conforming use in compliance with the both written and oral testimony with the following conditions. 1, that the parking on the property will meet the parking requirements stipulated in East Hempfield Township's parking ordinance. Although the application as stated there will be 12, but to meet the requirements, if they lose 2, they're still in compliance with the required 10 spaces. 2, that the hours of operation will be from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And 3, the standard conditions that this board places on all decisions. Is that correct, Mr. Hanson?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second, gentlemen?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bingham. Discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Who? Mr. Hanson?
One thing I like about this whole plan is it's taking a old building and reusing it and keeping it around, which I really like. I don't really have any concerns about the smells because I can tell you coffee will smell better than the whiff you get of Klein sometimes when the wind blows. So I think it's a great plan. I wish you the best of luck.
Mr. Hanson, on your second condition, and I know the applicant stated in testimony, and I even questioned it, the hours from 7 to 5 on Monday through Saturday. And I understand that as far as the roasting is concerned, I would definitely agree that those time periods are satisfactory. And even though I don't drink coffee, sorry, the 2 witnesses that testified indicated they, one, have no problem with this, and the one actually kind of indicated that they are looking forward to a coffee shop in near future. What are these people supposed to do Sunday mornings if we limit it that they can't have?
Just going by their testimony. I mean,
I understand, but I'm just wondering if
I would actually consider changing that the hours could stay the same, and it could be Monday through Sunday with the condition, I think, of no roasting on a Sunday.
And I would definitely support that.
Even if they don't want to do it.
Yeah, well, they can actually be only open for 1 day a week. That's their decision, but so you're willing to amend it to say that the hours of operation would be 7 to 5, Monday through Sunday, with roasting only being
Monday through Saturday.
Monday through Saturday.
Yes.
You're seconded. Would you agree to that change?
I have no complaint.
Okay, and before I see a head shaking yes from one of the three, Mr. Majek, I presume that's agreeable to, you. Okay. Okay, gentlemen, you have heard, is there any other comments? You've heard the motion with the conditions and with the one condition being modified. So at this time, Mr. Hanson,
In favor.
Mr. Luce,
In favor?
Mr. Bingham,
In favor.
and I will also vote in favor. Your request has been granted in case number 2433 for the special exception with the conditions. Thank you. Bless you. Okay. Nate. Next case, please.
Case number 2434 TLK Partners, Inc. for 200 Running Pump Road. Are seeking a special exception to expand a non-conforming use and a variance for lot coverage.
Okay, is there anyone here from TLK Partners? Thanks for putting it up.
Good evening. My name is Craig Deal. I'm the attorney for TLK Partners Incorporated, the applicant set forth for tonight's hearing.
Excuse me, did you say deal?
Deal, D as in David, IEHL.
Wasn't sure if you said deal or teal, so I apologize.
No problem.
Is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom that wants to be a party to this case? Seeing none. Mr. Deal, would you like to proceed, please?
Thank you very much. Good evening to the board. Again, my name is Craig Deal. I'm an attorney and CPA with offices in Camp Hill and also in York County and Spring Grove, Pennsylvania, which Nate was familiar with when I met with him. I guess he's grew up close to there also. I'm going to use this evening, I think it's a little more appropriate to use the Racket Club West instead of TLK Partners, Inc. It just makes a little more sense since we are talking about a tennis facility. So although TLK Partners, Inc. is the legal owner of the property, we'll use Racket Club West through our testimony this evening. The owner of TLK Partners, Inc., George Zink, will be here to testify and to address any questions that the zoning hearing board would have. As Mr. Sturgis indicated, we are seeking a variance for lot coverage and then also a special exception for non-conforming use. With that, probably each of you are very familiar with the Racket Club. It's been kind of a landmark in Lancaster County. I played there as a child, so it's been there well over 50 years. The clay courts have been there since I was, again, a child and played there, and nothing has really changed until Mr. Zink bought the club last year. And the changes that have occurred over at the club are phenomenal. And certainly we're not here about that this evening, but there's been tremendous improvement at the club. Unfortunately, and no disrespect to the prior owner, he was an older gentleman, kind of let the club become a little bit run down, dilapidated. But if any of you had the opportunity to go over to the club recently, you'll see something really amazing, a lot of excitement going on at the club, and actually a beautiful facility now. So we're here today in regards to padel courts, something very novel to the area. It's a newer sport. It's very big in Europe. In fact, it's in Europe, it's more popular than tennis. And it's something new to the area. There is some courts in Dauphin County, but to the best of my knowledge, also in Berks County, but to the best of my knowledge, this would be the first courts in Lancaster County that the applicant's seeking to install. After meeting with Mr. Beck and Mr. Sturgis, some concerns that were raised certainly, and we will certainly respect them, would be that we understood initially that the board's position, again, which we fully respect, was that clay was an impervious surface. What I've tried to do through amending the application is to show that the actual tennis courts that have been in existence there for 50 years are not truly clay, and that's real important differentiation. They're made of hard-true, and hard-true is a little bit different surface, a little more permeable. And what we've attached to our application for this evening's consideration is a study, a very comprehensive study done by USTA, because this issue has come up throughout the country because hard-true courts are obviously a concern when we get into larger cities where there's not as much rural land, and zoning issues, as we are here this evening about, become more pertinent in regards to the impervious versus pervious surface. So certainly, you're going to hear a little bit of testimony from Mr. Zink. Obviously, he's a tennis player. He's a tennis instructor. He's not a geologist or a scientist of soil samples, but we did provide a copy of that national report that was done just to give the board some understanding of the difference between hard-true and the clay surface. So with that said, I'm going to have Mr. Zink come up, and certainly we'll address questions with him. The one thing that I think is important for the board's consideration before I let Mr. Zink testify to some questions would be that for the past 50 years, nothing has changed at that facility. And at that facility, we were already at 50% impervious coverage of the lot. So with the addition of the 2 padel courts, we are actually requesting a very nominal surface adjustment of 1.76%. So it's a very nominal request this evening. And if the board would reconsider whether the hard-true is some sort of a pervious substance or surface, then that, I believe, may even become a moot issue. But we certainly respect, again, what the board's initial position was. We fully respect also that the current zoning ordinance is a 40% lot coverage. So the request this evening is with the maintaining of the 8 hard-true courts with the addition of the 2 padel courts would bring us to 52.46. So again, it's something that Mr. Zink inherited when he purchased the club last year. But if we would look to the current ordinance, we certainly want to be respectful that we are over by 12.46%. So with that said, if Mr. Zink can approach.
Before we go on, just so we're clear, when you submitted, Mr. Deal, to correspondence to the Township Zoning Hearing Board, you constantly refer in that correspondence to clay courts. You state in the first paragraph that, I think it's, yeah, there are 8 outdoor clay tennis courts. And then you go on later to say the 8 courts would be reduced to 6 clay courts. And again, you reference it. I understand the difference between clay and hard-true. So just so the record is very clear, the courts that are presently there that you are calling clay courts, the 8 clay courts, are they clay courts or are they hard-true courts?
Thank you for that question. It's a very good question. I did amend my application and provided to Mr. Sturgis an amended narrative. So hopefully that was provided to the board, where I did change the word clay to hard-true.
Okay.
And the reason why, just so the board understands, initially I was not aware that the zoning hearing board had determined clay to be impervious. I just used the word clay.
Right.
But then when Mr. Zink's engineer provided me with an email from the zoning hearing board that it was the position of the board that clay was impervious, that's when I made sure it was changed to hard true. The 8 existing courts, if you went over there today, are all hard true.
And I apologize, since the initial information was sent out to me, I did not get, the new one is on my computer. If somebody in this building could get my computer to work. And Mr. Sturgis, yeah, well, he's not coming home until the holiday. No,
Well, then how can we fix it?
well,
If you want to look at it, you can look at mine.
yeah, but, and Mr. Sturgis will confirm that today I had asked him to make copies of the submittals for next week just because of my computer. So I do apologize. You did correct it, your application, and that is clear. So
Okay, thank you.
just wanted to make sure that, there is, everyone knows there is truly a difference between the two materials. Thank you.
So, quick thing here. In your revised submittal to the township, you're actually going to get rid of 2 of the courts? Is that what you're saying?
Well, initially, when I met with the township, the concern was the impervious lot coverage. Because at that point in time, I was not aware that the zoning hearing board had made a, I don't
Before
want to
you
say
go
a
any
deterrent.
farther, let me correct something. We don't make that decision.
That
That is
was-
a township decision.
Okay.
What
The
the
township
township
then
decides
has-
what's pervious.
Right, well, there was an email and it went to Mr. Zink's engineers. I don't know who from the township wrote that email. I believe I have a copy of it. Had taken a position that clay was impervious. So based on that, then we had to look at alternatives to potentially comply with your ordinances to hopefully get the variance or the special request or exception request approved.
So if you stay with 8 hard true courts and the 2 paddleball courts that you want to put in,
Adele,
Padel, that would give you a 52.46% lot coverage.
that is correct, which is again, 1.76% more impervious lot coverage than what exists for the past 50 years.
Okay.
We kind of argued as in the prior case, in the alternative, we're hoping Mr. Zink is using all 8 tennis courts at the moment. He would love to have them preserved since the activity's there to support it. So it was only in the alternative that we made that offer.
Mr. Beck, since you're the planning and development officer, township's position is still that the hard true is impervious.
Nate and I just looked at the emails and we don't believe that the township engineer reviewed that information. He did come back and say that his professional opinion is clay is impervious,
Right.
but he didn't provide any input or answer on hard true.
And can I just make a statement about that? Because I think it's really, if you look at the definition of lot coverage, it doesn't define it in terms of impervious coverage. It says a percentage of the lot area which may be covered with buildings, driveways, permanent parking area, sidewalks, and any other structures. This is used to measure the intensity of use of the land. So whereas I think some zoning ordinances do define it in terms of impervious coverage, East Hempfield does not. And a tennis court is a structure. So I think the whether it's hard true or clay is sort of academic because of the definition.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Anything else?
No, go ahead.
Continue, Mr. Dew.
Mr. Zink, could you please state your name and address, please?
Yes, George Zink, 357 Pitney Road, Lancaster, PA.
Mr. Zink, what is your capacity with TLK Partners Incorporated?
I'm the owner.
You purchased the club when?
Last July 15th to 2020.
And just for the board's maybe a better understanding or a general overview, could you please describe little bit about padel because it is a more newer sport.
Sure. So obviously my family's a tennis family. We moved back into the area last year to buy the club. When I was driving to Florida 2012, I thought I would never come back, but here I am. We've been loving back here. So we bought the club, and then just happened that the builder of padel courts lives in Reading. And the president of padel is a good friend of mine. And padel started in Mexico, and now in Spain, it's literally more popular than tennis. I would say it's a cross between tennis, squash, and racquetball. You can play it off the glass walls back into the court, but it's a turf surface, so it's turf, and then against a glass wall. So it's the best way I can do. And same scoring as tennis, just a smaller footprint.
What kind of ball?
It's actually, they sell them new now, but it's almost a dead tennis ball. Yeah.
One of the concerns raised by the township was the noise capacity of a padel court. I would like to compare, if you could, in your opinion, compare a padel court to a outdoor tennis court, which is there, and then also to pickleball.
Yeah, so, I came from Florida, so pickleball is huge in Florida, and the sound obviously is loud, louder than, and I know that a lot of neighbors complain. With a padel, because it's a softer tennis ball, less than a tennis. It's less noise than a tennis racket.
An outdoor tennis?
An outdoor tennis racket, less.
Well, an outdoor, when you say tennis racket, you mean
Like when
the
a ball
is
hits,
striking
when a
the-
ball hits it,
Okay.
yes.
But with the ball bouncing off this cubicle area,
Yeah,
is
so,
there sound?
yeah, because it's a glass sound, so when it hits the glass, it's literally not a loud sound.
Just of the ball substance?
Exactly.
The location of the padel courts, is this going to require any new entranceways into the club? Is it going to alter in any way the adjoining properties or alter the neighborhood in regards to where you propose installation?
No, I don't think so. I would say that padel courts, in my opinion, are aesthetically prettier than a tennis court. They look really, really nice. And I don't think it's going to impact anything.
Behind the tennis courts currently, at least the last time I was at your club and play, there's a pretty large buffer between
Yes.
the racket club's property and the neighboring properties.
Yes, it's still there. It goes from a really, really high tree line to, I want to say, a 10 to 12 feet tree line.
So at your proposed location of the padel courts, is there currently a buffer there between where the padel courts would be located and the neighbors that would be, I guess, behind the padel courts?
There is.
And could you explain to the board what buffer that is?
So basically, it's a tree line that basically pine trees are behind my tennis courts all the way down. And then it goes down into just smaller I guess they're bushes, big bushes.
So how high do you think the current bushes
I
are?
wish I would say probably 10 feet.
So would you be opposed if it's a condition to put something in that might go higher?
Absolutely not.
The padel courts, if they're installed, if this is the surface, what is our surface that we're using to install them? Underneath the padel courts?
So just crushed underneath the ones that we're putting in.
Right.
It would be a concrete slab and then on top of that would be turf.
Is a concrete slab the only way to install them?
No, there's another way that we can do crushed stone underneath there to put.
One more stable than, I mean, it seems that concrete would be more stable.
Yes.
How high off the ground is the playing surface?
It's on the ground.
So
So-
if this is our crushed surface, the padel court is on this carpet. So we're not
going higher.
steps to get up into the
No.
padel courts or
No.
anything like that. Currently, we have the indoor courts and then we have the outdoor courts. And certainly parking is a concern. How many people can use the padel courts at one time?
8,
This going to
4,
be,
4 on a court.
this is going to be current club members that would have the
Yes.
ability or benefit of using the padel courts?
Correct. We just want to expand another sport. You know, obviously, we're going to be the first ones in Lancaster County, but it would just be our existing members for the sport of padel.
And we had provided a engineering report to show that all setback lines have been complied with the zoning ordinance?
Correct.
Regards to the parking area that's there, what would be your proposal with the padel courts
For the parking.
or anyone using the padel courts?
So we would just use our existing parking that we have now for our members.
And again, if there would be a condition that a few extra parking spots would have to be utilized, would you be opposed to that?
No, of course.
And how far are the padel courts from the indoor facility?
That's a great question, Greg. I would say
50 yards?
yes.
So for someone to park at the indoor facility, they would walk down to the padel
Correct.
courts?
That's what they do now to the tennis courts. Yes.
So you see no real change?
There's
then?
no change at all. Yes.
I know here in Lancaster County, the goal and objective of any zoning hearing board application is to comply with the Growing Together program. How do you envision the padel courts addressing that program?
So when I travel through Europe, just the social piece of padel was incredible. Like, I think it just brings people together. It really does. I would say even more so than tennis. It's just incredible. My experience, I traveled with my son to the Grand Slams the last 2 years and over the French, and, you know, we went to the Italian Open, and it just creates so much of a social piece, and it's just a great addition to our club. So I see it just bringing everybody more together.
In regards to the property layout, other than improvements to the existing facility, meaning the exterior building, have there been any other improvements made to the overall property since you've bought it?
Not the overall property,
So it's still the same as it's been for,
exact same as when we bought it. Yeah. Looks a little shinier.
Cleaner.
this time, that's all I have for Mr. Zink. Open up the board for any questions.
Gentlemen, questions of the witness?
I have one.
Mr. Bingham.
It's been fairly rainy for the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
Do you notice puddles forming on any of the hard true courts and staying for any length of time?
No, I mean, I don't, you know, we are, you know, we have to water them like crazy, you know, even after a big rain. So I do not notice puddles. I mean, sure, right after a rain, but after they drain, unbelievable.
So there are puddles, don't sit on them for any length of time. They dry fairly quickly after a rain.
Super quickly.
Okay.
What would be an average, if you had a heavy rain, how long would a puddle stay on a clay court?
I mean, depending on how hard it rains, we're back on the court, and if it's sunny out, 2 hours. After it's.
But you don't have to,
After heavy rain, if the sun comes out.
you don't have
I'm
to
not
go out
sure.
with a whisk broom or squeegee or anything to
No,
clear
you
the
don't- you
courts.
can't use those on hard true.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
It
So
just
they don't-
drains.
It goes away.
Yes.
I wanted to thank you for the use of growing together, although the analogy doesn't quite work. It was a different kind of growing that they were talking about.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Anything else?
No.
Mr. Hanson?
You brought up parking, and there was talk about parking in how many spots are there currently?
On the engineering report by Mr. Zink's engineer, there's 56.
That's existing now. And what's the ITE requirement for this
I
particular?
believe based on the fifth manual, it was 92. So it's a significant, but what is important is, I know, again, this is just 50 years of attending that club, is if there is overflow, which is not that often, they do park in the grass along the long lane that comes in from Running Pump Road back to the indoor facility.
And that's normally for special events, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, typically on, with a normal day of
Yeah.
tennis, there would never be enough cars there to overflow the parking. It would just be a tournament.
How many special events do you have per year?
It's a great question. I would say we're running maybe, I mean, we've only had 2 so far. We've owned it for a year and we've had 2 so far.
And I'm assuming there was overflow parking on the grass. Is that correct? What's the township's feeling on the parking requirements for this?
92 is probably the peak number of parking spaces. And we prefer the market to dictate the number of parking spaces that they feel are appropriate. That's why we look at a range between 30 and 80% of what the ITE requires.
So township has no issue with their current parking?
No.
One,
One quick, how many spaces are there now?
I believe it's on the report, 52, 56.
56. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Hanson.
56, that's correct.
For how many members?
We currently have, well, different types of members, adult members, junior members. Do you want the total?
Those
Adult
who would
member-
drive,
Huh?
adult, I guess.
Adult, yeah, adult tennis is around 400.
They don't all descend on the place at one time.
No.
He wishes.
If I had a larger parking lot, we would definitely love that.
and these new courts, the Patel courts you're gonna put in, where this, they don't interfere where the sign is currently located, correct?
With the sign? No.
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Luce, how typically high are the Padel courts?
You have the,
I saw the drawings on here, but I couldn't really see anything.
I
that
think
said how-
the glass are 10
Okay.
feet.
So that's pretty equivalent to what you already have out there right
Exactly.
now.
It's
Okay.
it's exactly what we have now.
And that's pretty much the same kind of draining as the hard shoe courts.
Yes.
And it's adequate draining on there. I've seen them, and a lot of the things that you've done in there are charity events too.
Yes. Yes.
So would there
Yes.
be potential to do charity events for this as well?
100%. Yes, we're if things go well, we would partner with the president and we would love to do we're actually doing a charity event over Labor Day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good. Okay. Nate. Jason.
If the Padel courts are a hit, would you potentially build new ones in the future or?
So I think, I mean, obviously I would love to do something, but I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think 2 is sufficient right now, but I would love, sure, I would love to grow the sport. I believe in the sport. I mean, I really do. I think it's incredible. My whole family has fallen in love with it. I've taken some non-tennis players to play and they seem to like it. So I've taken a few members over to the one court in Reading. And everybody just falls in love with it right away, so.
I don't think I have anything else.
Can I ask a question of Nate or John? If I understood you correctly, you said you have not yet heard from our engineer about the hard true.
That is correct.
Do you have any idea how long that will take and how should that enter into our thinking?
The only thing that's going to affect lot coverage would be the same. What it's going to affect is what they need to do for stormwater.
Yeah.
I would agree. And I think that Jason correctly pointed out, the impervious or pervious nature of the material has no bearing on lot coverage.
Okay.
So
So in either case, if the engineer comes back and says it's impervious, stormwater is going to come into play.
correct.
And that's not our issue. That's
Correct.
So even if we would grant it,
It doesn't,
that, down the road, that's something that they would have to look at.
Correct.
Potentially have to look at.
One more question.
Mr. Hanson.
Make sure we got all the numbers right here. So your current lot coverage is 50.7%, correct?
That is correct.
And you want to exceed it by 1.76%, which would give you a total lot coverage of 52.46%. Okay.
Anything else?
Nope, that's good.
Anyone in the audience have any question, or on Zoom, excuse me? Audience or Zoom, have any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Thank you. Mr. Deal?
Thank
Mr. Deal, before you step down, on the application, that was submitted with the packet, unless you amended the application, you had 270.3, 270-3.5.C 5 and 6. I think you meant 270-3.5.E 5 and 6.
That is correct.
Okay, so you have no, you're requesting us then to amend the official application to reference the appropriate.
Yes, I
Okay.
apologize. for that.
We will take care of that then.
I want to correct you there. That last should be a B, not a 6.
Well, I can't even read.
If it should be, I think the correct
B.
one that they're asking for is 270-3.5
B, you're right,
E 5B.
right. No. E,
Where did I pulled that right out of there.
5. 5 is maximum lot coverage.
Right?
And then B,
B.
B,
not 6.
yeah. That's right.
And 6 looks the same.
Okay,
Now, B.
okay. Nothing else you'd like to add at this time?
I have nothing further at this time.
Okay, so at this time then, gentlemen, we will conclude testimony in case number 2434. Gentlemen, the applicant has requested that we amend the application to reference 270-3.5.E5B in place of the 270-3.5C5B. Can I have that as a motion, please?
So
Moved by Mr. Bingham. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Luce. Any discussion, gentlemen? Seeing them, Mr. Hanson,
In favor.
Mr. Luce.
In favor?
Mr. Bingham?
In favor.
And I also vote in favor. The application has been amended to reference the appropriate section. Now, gentlemen, this time I will listen to a motion, if there is one, for case number 2434.
Mr. Chairman, case number 2434, the request of TLK Partners Incorporated for property located at 200 Running Pump Road, Lancaster, PA. That's not the correct thing. Yeah, it is 200 Running Pump Road, Lancaster, PA 17603. Make a motion to grant their request for a special exception to section 270-6.6 to expand a non-conforming use. And 2, to grant a variance to section 270-3.5E5B with our standard conditions. The variance to exceed the lot coverage would take the total lot coverage to 12.46% over allowable for a total lot coverage of 52.46%, which is a current expansion of the current lot coverage of 1.76%.
With the standard condition.
With standard conditions.
Okay, motion. Case number 2434 with Mr. Hanson. Grant to the property, excuse me, at 200 Running Pump Road, Lancaster, PA 17603. The request of TLK Partners to grant a special exception to section 270-3.5 6.6 to allow for an expansion of a non-conforming use. And to grant a variance to section 270-3.5.E5B to allow the total lot coverage to increase by 12.6% for a total lot coverage of 52.46%, a 1.6% increase over the existing coverage with the standard conditions that this board places on all decisions. Gentlemen, do I have a seconded by Mr. Luce? Discussion, gentlemen? Mr. Hanson?
I have a little concern on parking, but not much. Though, instead of the padel courts, if you could put some nice bocce ball courts in, that would have swayed me really well.
I happen to agree with you, Mr. Hanson. The only concern I have normally is that at times I think not only this township, but all municipalities follow the standards that are set up, and we end up putting too much parking in that is only used at special times, like at shopping centers and that. And I think the same thing here with the facility that we have. Should this facility, some reason, start to have more special events than just normal members coming to play, I think, then something will have to be done. So I understand where you're coming from, and I have to agree with you. With that, anything else, gentlemen?
And I agree on the parking issue. But like I said, with the special events being limited, that's why I don't see the parking as much of an issue.
Yeah.
If you were having one special event a month, then I think it would become more of an issue at that point.
I agree. With that, Mr. Hanson.
In favor.
Mr. Luce.
In favor.
Mr. Bingham.
In favor.
And I'll also vote in favor. Your request has been granted with the conditions so stated. Thank you, gentlemen. Want a couple minute break? Before we continue, we'll just take a couple minute break. We'll stand at ease. Mr. Deal and Mr. Zink.
Cafe, right?
Years ago, the property, I think it's Jason next door, the Lancaster, what was it, boat and tennis club? Yacht.
Yeah.
Was this part of that?
Never, they were never part of each other.
Okay.
They were always separate. Ours, Rockies Club West, it was what's it called, the Lancaster Tennis and Variety Club.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was, yeah.
That was tennis and, yeah,
They own the land where those
houses are.
That's where the riding.
The rink and the stable, and the stable used to be.
And the stable used to be there, so, but they were never defined, literally right out the back.
Right.
Yeah.
I eons ago, a friend and I took care of horses there. I never realized whether they, and then years later, my son used to play tennis there. So,
I appreciate your keeping a 50-year-old business alive and well in the
Yeah.
township, especially with that history.
well, good luck. Thank
Did that
you.
other club,
For the
other
information.
club play yacht rock?
Say that again?
Did that other club play yacht rock? Is that how they got away with using yacht in the name?
No yachts around.
No,
There was never any yachts.
no water, nothing.
Unless they classified the horses as yachts, I don't know. Yeah, that always amazed me when I was a kid.
Because it didn't change.
Ah, They have plenty of grass area along that long strip, don't they, for overflow
Oh, that's where it
parking?
all is. Yeah, that's where they park to play tennis outside
Well,
too. There's not, all they can talk about when they talk about is the impervious lots where there's marked. They have 3 times as much parking all along there.
Whenever we had
And it's
big
runoff.
events at the swimming pools, when we had big meets, we just parked, had people
Yes.
parked on the grass with
plenty of
somebody
parking.
guiding and it was
They don't
helped.
even park that far up to where these days Padel, I don't know why they keep calling Padel, paddle.
Yeah, but it's a
Padel,
different
courts,
thing.
Right, but even up there, you never park up through there, because I played at 2 of the tournaments that they've had down there. So it's plenty of parking. I mean, it's, and even when they're just down in the inside, you don't fill those courts up. You can't fill them up. I mean, they only have 8 courts. So you get 4 on a court in there, you're just not gonna fill that many people
No.
up in there, so. It's just a little bit, the difference is when usually people are coming and going at the same time, so.
Yeah.
You
So
can
the
have
parking
2
empties and
groups
fills.
filled up, in which they do a great job of bringing people in.
Yeah.
They've done a phenomenal job there fixing it up, so.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
The same as the trolley thing.
Yeah.
I was glad to see that they were
Fix
gonna
things that are already
keep,
here instead of
keep the
building new ones,
character
right?
of the building as well as
Yep.
keeping that building there, in that spot. It had quite a history, didn't it? Amazing.
Yes,
I used to ride trolleys in the city of Pittsburgh,
really?
everywhere. Yeah, when I was quite young, I could get on a trolley, put a nickel in the
Yeah.
thing by the driver, ride all over the city.
I remember my grandmother always telling me that, and they lived in Hopeland. And because I was born and raised in Ephrata, and she used to tell me that all the time. Oh, we took the trolley from Hopeland into Ephrata and all this kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
I'm
there
like,
was a
really? They
there
ran
was a
she goes, "Oh, my
healthy
goodness,
trolley
yeah."
service here.
Yep.
You can still see the remains of where the tracks were in some places. They kind of parallel Manheim Pike. You can see them on the hillside there
I've
some
never noticed them,
places.
but I guess
They're there. It's just like a little
little mound.
Maside, yeah.
All right, I'll have to take notice now.
Not everywhere, but there's one of the rail trails that I walk on was kind of a short line railroad. It's over by the training center.
Yep.
And that was quite a little railroad for a
That's
long
pretty
time.
cool.
Yep, you could get all over Lancaster County by trolley.
Yeah,
Just like I could get all over Pittsburgh by trolley
that's pretty cool.
for not much money at all.
Not anymore.
No, no, they took out the wires, the track, everywhere.
It's not just buses everywhere, but
Fortunately, now they're becoming electric buses,
Yeah.
which is what the trolley
yes,
was.
yes. But you don't need all the other wires and
No, you
everything else too
don't,
in the
no.
tracks, so that helps a bit.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you're not self-driving.
I saw Tesla had another problem somewhere yesterday or an accident somewhere.
The trucks is what I have a sort of big problem with. If you get someone hauling all that kind of stuff around, there's nobody driving it. It's like, come on. I mean, not paying attention to it.
Our trailer truck's on the way that will be electric. But if I were running the trucking company, I'd want the driver to
Yes.
be sitting behind a
Sitting there
wheel.
with it, right.
Yeah, with an override on the brakes and everything else. Probably simply by detecting when they grab the steering wheel.
It's so many, I mean, right now, the Forest has the 2018 and everything is adaptive.
So
You just put the cruise control on there and it basically is going, it slows down in the car in front of you to whatever it's supposed to
To a
be.
fixed
Yeah.
distance. Cadillac's
it-
been doing that for quite a
Yeah,
while. And
it's just,
Subaru picked it up.
that's awesome. I keep saying I'm gonna buy this thing for my kids because they're right up in everybody, and everybody's grill. It's like, come on, stay back.
Then what you have to do is find out where the switch is to defeat it and defeat the switch. So
Yeah.
they can't shut it off.
I want it on.
Yeah.
That thing's done phenomenal.
Between lane keeping
Mhm.
and the distance keeping, it can make a trip boring
Yeah.
maybe, but safe.
That's all I care about. But you figure you got to do something with it. So even if you're not doing all the driving per se,
Mhm.
you're still paying attention. So that's what I look at. I think the safeties the features that they have in these things are amazing anymore. They really are.
The Volvo that I have, when we bought it, They took us out in the park, the guy took us out in the parking lot and said, now don't get scared. He drove the car toward a wall at about 20 miles an hour and took his hands off everything but the gas. And the thing stopped 2 feet from the wall, all by itself.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now we can just figure out how to gas itself up.
Applied its own brakes.
Yep.
So no, I'm not gonna hit that wall.
Just those.
I don't think that ever caught on.
Highway transportation.
Really?
safety.
John was just saying, they said someone, they had
And
another
now the
accident or
arm
something.
Recall now,
You're having another hardware. And
It's up.
oh, it's up.
because
Okay.
anybody would've
Well,
thought
don't
that
hit
would
it
ever
too
happen.
hard.
Yeah.
Don't flap that wing too fast. Keep keeping
So,
up.
okay, if we could go back on the record, please.
We thank you for your patience.
Yes, please.
I don't smell like food.
Yeah, I know. Nate,
How about coffee?
next case, please.
Case number 2437, Jason Rodriguez, 509 Roarstown Road, seeking a special exception to extend a temporary use permit.
Okay, is Jason Rodriguez here or his representative? Okay, I need to swear you in. You came in late. Please. Under penalties of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give or about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And as the translator for the applicant, you swear and affirm that what he says and you translate will be true and will be true as far as the best of your ability. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, since we're, just so to make sure the record is complete, I will ask Mr. Rodriguez to be at a microphone. And, you know, you be at a microphone and just so we can hear what he says in Spanish, then you translate. Just so the court reporter will take it down. Please, sir.
Can you stand here so I can put the paper up?
Yeah, you can reverse. Whichever is more convenient and beneficial to you. So,
Mr. Chairman, if we can get the gentleman that's translating his name and address.
yeah, we were going to do that next
Okay.
before we went any further. So at this time then, since you are the translator for Mr. Rodriguez, please state your name and address.
My name is Eddie Perales. I live at 751 Lawrence Boulevard.
Mr. Perales, would you ask Mr. Rodriguez, please, to state his name and address for the record?
My name is Jason Rodriguez and my address 21 Park Avenue, Montville, PA.
Did you get that? Okay, thank you. Mr. Rodriguez, would you please state your case?
I do have a statement here that if you want me to read off.
That's fine, just so we have it. So if you want to, and this statement is from Mr. Rodriguez that you're going to read for the record.
Correct.
Okay.
So this statement is in English written as if it's from him. I translated it into the English, okay?
I appreciate that.
Say his first person account.
Right.
Thank you to the East Hempfield Township for allowing us to bring this request to you today. We launched Isla Estrella food truck a year ago. It was a dream of ours to bring fresh, authentic, prepared foods to Lancaster County. The past 3 months at 509 Roarstown Road, we've established clientele from the immediate residents and the workforce from companies that visit us for lunch and for food pickups on the drive home. Under the jurisdiction of East Hempfield Township, we are requesting a permit extension so that we can continue to contribute to the area and continue to live our dream. With the authorization of this permit, my food truck will be parked an estimated 100 feet from the main road of Georgetown Road. We also want to inform the zoning board that we have invested in installation of electricity hookup at this location that allows us to run our food truck with no generator noise. All of our dishes are served to go, either through a call ahead or ordering at the location. We're asking the zoning board today to grant us the permit extension. That's it, sir.
Okay.
So
Okay. Just so we asked, there is nothing else Mr. Rodriguez would like at this time?
To add to that statement, no.
Right, okay. Questions then, Mr. Hanson?
how long are you looking for the extension to go?
For the allotment of time that you allow. So I've heard 6 months or something like that, the permit, or is it's less?
It's a 6-month extension.
6-month extension.
So this would be for a 6-month extension. And I hope his business is doing well, but what's he plan to do after 6 months?
Either he comes back to another zoning hearing or look for a location.
Because I think you can only get one extension, correct?
Correct. Yes, for a total of 1 year.
Only for a total.
So if it's a 6-month granted willing at this time, is it 6 months after the equivalent to the 1 year, or how's that gonna work?
He has 90 days temporary permit.
Yep.
He's in now for a 6-month extension.
6, 7, that's 9 months.
Correct. After the 6 months, he can come back and ask for another 6 month. At which time, the way the ordinance is written, we do not have the authority to give an extension. Then you'd have to work with the township on what is needed for a true permanent time period.
Does he do all his business from Gockenauer's parking lot?
Yes, sir.
Does he have any plans to go around, or is he just only in that location only?
So throughout the last couple of months without the permit, I have gotten him locations like at the Longs Park Music Festival, the Wine Festival up in Mount Joy requested for him to be up there. Multiple campsites like in an effort area have requested their service. Their location, even though it's very different, I was born and raised here, they were born in Puerto Rico. It's very unique because they're open a few hours.
Right.
And they sell food and it sells out. They don't freeze things. Everything's made at the time. Everything's 100% fresh. And that's what's lacking in a lot of restaurants locally, especially with the food types that he's cooking. He's been a chef at the Hilton Corporation over in Puerto Rico for over 10, 12 years before he came to the US after Hurricane Maria. That's why they came here. So their stuff sells out every day. He buys a certain amount and then they cook it, they sell, and then they close for the day.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up on Mr. Hanson's question. He's at this location 5 days a week or 6 days a week?
He runs usually Wednesday to Saturday.
Okay, so it's 4 days a week. He can, at any time, move his vehicle to go to one of these special events.
Right.
So, this vehicle is totally or truly a vehicle. It is not in any way a permanent,
It's a mobile trailer that was converted into a food
Right.
truck. Yeah.
Okay,
Without the engine, basically, so he tows it behind the truck.
right, but it is a
Movable.
vehicle, movable. It's not in any way permanent. So that's how he can do this Wednesday through Saturday or whatever. And then also do special events request in there. Okay. The location, as stated in the statement, says that he's approximately 100 feet from Royalstown Road. I presume that most of the customers coming to the food truck, they're either walking and or driving. There is adequate parking so that parking is not taking place on Roarstown Road.
On that site there, there's, if I'm not mistaken, 16 spaces. There's 20 parking spaces there, so
Okay.
they don't get the walk-up traffic. It's basically people coming from where the gentleman has his tennis courts, them factories come over for lunch, or when they're
Right.
coming home, they order the phone and pick up and go home.
But what I was just indicating is, for the record, is that there is sufficient
Correct.
parking for any clientele, customers that are coming.
Correct. Those are the existing parking spaces that Gawkner's had there.
Right.
By the same plan.
Right. Okay, any other questions, gentlemen? Nate? Jason?
No, sir.
Mr. Luce?
What is his normal operating hours? Does he have any certain hours or is it just?
Yeah, so he'll operate well, he's there from 11 to 6. Usually the food, because I eat there all the time. I live on, close to it. It usually sells out before 6, but 11 to 12 is more prep time. So he's locked in the trailer, prepping food for lunch when people come around.
Who locks him in?
She's shaking her head, yes, yes.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was a strange way of putting that, locked in the trailer. Okay, anything else, Mr. Luce?
No, that's good.
Anything else? Anything else you want to add at this point? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that has any questions for the applicant or Zoom? Seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience or Zoom that have any comments, pro or con, for this application? John, anything? Seeing none. Anything that needs to be added? Okay. So, okay, gentlemen, at this time, we will conclude testimony in case number 2437. We will add into the record oral and written, oral testimony and written application. There is no administrative notice. There are no additional exhibits. So at this time, gentlemen, I will listen to a motion, if there is one, in case number 2437.
Mr. Chairman, case number 2437, make a motion to grant a special exception as it pertains to section 270-9.3A 16B and grant a 6-month permit for Mr. Rodriguez's business located at 509 Roarstown Road, Lancaster, PA 17603.
Motion by Mr. Hanson in case number 2437. Grant for the business at 509 Roarstown Road, Lancaster, PA 17603. To grant a special exception to section 270.9.3A 16B. Grant a 6-month extension for a permit to operate his food truck at this location. Correct?
Yes.
Do I have a second, gentlemen?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Luce. Any discussion, gentlemen? Seeing none, Mr. Hanson.
In favor.
Mr. Luce.
In favor?
Mr. Bingham.
In favor.
And I also vote in favor. Your request has been granted with the only condition which I didn't state is the normal conditions that we put on all decisions, which are basic, saying that you will comply with regulations of the township. But your request has been granted. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And don't lock him in too long. Nate, any other business for this evening? Okay, gentlemen, we have 3 cases next, and lady, excuse me. We have the 3 cases next Monday night. You will be here.
Bring your charge cord.
Don't know anything besides that. Nate said, which he lied to us last month. He doesn't have any additional or any new cases for September, but time period isn't over yet for that.
The deadline is Friday, so we'll know.
That's what you
Monday.
told us last. So, with that, gentlemen, I will see you then. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Cheryl, I told you that one would be quick.